Are you playing mind games on yourself? So, today we're going to get into the curious way that our brain affects our money. And we're going to talk about these mind tricks that we play on ourselves unknowingly that affects our spending habits, our behavior around money, etc. These are not just little quirks, but they're basically deeply rooted in our psychology. So, we're going to get into why we have these, what we can do to sort of work around them so we can make smarter financial choices. Who doesn't want to do that? All right, if you're new here, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. Let's get into it. So behavioral economics, it sounds like a big word, but it's really a part of our everyday lives. And we have some natural biases or effects that happen when we are encountered with different things in our economic life, right? That affects our money, our wallet in simple terms. We're going to get into three particular types of biases. One is the endowment effect. The second is loss aversion. And the third is the sunken cost fallacy. Now let's take each of these and kind of dive deep into it and figure out what can we do to overcome this particular type of bias. So first, the endowment effect. So this was kind of pioneered by Richard Thaler in behavioral economics. And basically what it says that because we own something, that we now have attributed a higher value to it. So basically you can have, a mug, and the mug costs $5, but because now that it's yours, you feel like it should cost $20. Like you want to sell it at a garage sale for even more that you paid for it. So with this endowment effect, we're basically attributing more value than should be to the item because it's ours. And so a good example is storage units, right? So tons and tons of people have storage units. I think it's one of the best businesses that you can kind of get into. Why? Because I've experienced people have stuff in storage for years. Now, there's two types of people. There's people who really need storage and they actually use a storage unit and actually go and, do whatever they need to do for that storage unit. But there are people who actually never visit their storage units. They pay for it every single month. They may not even know what's in there. They probably don't even need the stuff, right? And when the time comes for them to actually either move or whatever and use the stuff, they probably don't even really want it. But because they have this endowment effect where they feel like it's mine though, right? I have to now keep it. I have to keep up the payments because it's valuable. It's worth it, right? Whereas over the period of time that they've been paying for this storage unit, they probably could have re-brought everything that they had in that unit already, right? So it's a thing, right? The endowment effect. Now, why do we do this as human beings? It's because once upon a time, this was good for survival. We had to hunt, we had to gather, ours was important. It was important to have yours and to assign that greater value of the work that you put in to acquire it to that particular thing. But now, in this day and age, it doesn't help us. So it's another thing that we as a species needs to unlearn so that we can declutter our homes and declutter our finances and stop paying for things over and over that we really don't need, right? So how do we deal with this endowment effect? Ask yourself, how much would I, when you have something that you kind of assigning a value to that may not be warranted, ask yourself, how much would I pay for this now if it wasn't mine, if I didn't own it, right? And so when you sort of realize what you're sort of doing, how the value that you are attributing to the thing, you can now start to realize that, hey, maybe this is really not worth what it is if I wouldn't buy it again today, or how much would I pay for it today, right? That'll be helpful. That will sort of help you to make a more rational decision as it relates to your belongings. The next bias is loss aversion. So this theory was first talked about by Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky in the 70s. Basically, the pain of losing is 2 times as much as the pain of gaining or winning. We basically dwell on our losses and our wins. We kind of get over them fairly quickly. Anyone that has ever invested in the stock market or any other risky investment, that the pain of losing is so much greater than the pleasure of gaining or winning, right? For some reason, it just hits different. That's why we stick to what we know, right? It's a survival mechanism, even though it's not the best option. It was great for avoiding predators, but it's not so good for financial management, right? And so what we want to do is when we're dealing with these, with loss aversion, or you identify that you're dealing with loss aversion, you can ask yourself, instead of focusing on the loss, you can ask yourself, what might be my potential gain? What might I actually gain from this versus what I might be losing? And reframing your focus can help you to make better decisions as it relates to that loss aversion. So you want to make a list of pros and cons when making financial decisions so that you can balance your emotional response with your logical response, right? You can make better decisions logically without just being led by your emotions. And lastly, the sunk cost fallacy. So this bias is how we continue behavior because of the cost already invested in it, even though there may be potential continued loss. We want to salvage the loss that has already happened, or the investment that has already been made. So we continue this behavior. I listened to someone speaking about a book they wrote about multi-level marketing, and basically how multi-level marketing rarely works for the individuals that are coming into it, right? It usually works for the people who started. They make a lot of money, multiples of millions of dollars, but people who are joining later on are typically not going to even make their return, right? They may make that, but they're not going to get rich over it for sure. And so the idea behind multi-level marketing, and why people continue to do it, even though they realize like, okay, this may not actually make me the millions that I think I'm going to make, is because of the sunken cost fallacy, right? I've already put so much time and effort into it. I've already told people about it. I've already made myself the poster child for this thing. And because of that, I can't give up now. I've already spent so much. So you could also look at this like an all-you-can-eat buffet. You pay for the all you can eat, so you're going to try to eat as much as you can. Or gym memberships, where you continue to pay for these gym memberships, and you're like, well, I got to get in shape. I got to keep this membership because I'm going to get in shape because I already spent enough. I already invested enough in this membership, right? You just keep the costs getting more and more sunken, right? You're losing more and more just because you are mad about what you've already spent. The key to deal with the sunken cost fallacy is to focus on the future value here, right? What might I gain if I continue to, spend, if I continue to do this thing, if I continue on this path? What will I gain? And if the answer is not much, then it's probably time to cut your losses. You have to cut your losses, right? So understanding these psychological biases that we have, that our mind plays these tricks on us and we don't really understand what's happening. Now that you can pinpoint it, you can identify it, you can start to change the behaviors and your reactions from these particular emotions, and you can make better financial decisions. If you want to dive deeper into these topics, there's a book called Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman, or Misbehaving by Richard Thaler. These two books kind of get into this topic a bit more if you want to get into behavioral economics. My job here is just to help you understand the connection between your mind and your money so you can overcome these psychological behaviors that are holding you back. Don't forget to like and subscribe, share these tips with someone who needs to hear it, and drop a comment and let me know how these tips have been helpful for you. I appreciate you for listening, and I will see you next time.